Hello and welcome to Find Your Fit with Deanna. I'm Deanna, personal trainer and life coach, professor of health and wellness, and a bunch of those things that we get to do in the health and wellness space. So today we are talking about periodization. If you're not yet sure what that means, you will be quite soon. This topic, to be honest, could have sat in or is sitting in Find Your Fit episode 6. But it really also could have been in the Lunch with a Life Coach podcast series as well, because that is, or this idea is actually something I do use with my life coaching clients as well. So all that is to say, I just want you to think really broadly about how you could apply this theory. We are talking about periodization. So periodization, and I often will say, it's not just for athletes and it's not just for fitness, because the idea of, if we go with an athlete example first, it is really about planning for success, planning for progression, and planning for recovery. So an athlete that has an event, let's say coming up in, I don't know, September, or maybe they play a season or a sport, I should say, that has a season from, September to June, whatever that might be. Her training is not the same all year round, right? Her training is off season, on season, sometimes higher in volume, sometimes lower in volume, sometimes heavier in weightlifting, sometimes lighter in weightlifting. All that depends on what season or stage her sport is in and what upcoming events that she may have. Okay. So that seasonality, sometimes we can think of it, is really about making sure we're planning for changes. We can't possibly, this athlete couldn't possibly work at a high level, or train at, I should say, in the gym, on the treadmill, the bike, the weights, etc., at that peak level of intensity all year round. Really likely she would get hurt. She would not be performing optimally when it's time to take those skills and that training that she is building in the gym and change it over to her event. So how can we think about that in terms of, first of all, let's go to fitness, general fitness, right? For us non-athletes that don't have a particular, Olympics coming up. Well, it is really about, again, planning for your success. We are no different than athletes. Our bodies need challenge, need progressive overload to get stronger, faster, fitter, cardiovascularly wise, whatever the case might be. And we also need rest time. So if you are, let's say, going to be doing a travel in the summertime, it is June as I'm recording this, so summer is on the brain for a lot of us. In Canada anyway, our summer is sort of July and August. And so the idea of a travel trip, let's say you're going on a bicycling trip or you're going on a hiking trip. Now, not really appropriate to start in June, but we would be sort of backing things up to say, what your trip, when you are, how many kilometers are you biking in a day, for example, and how many days are you going to be doing that? So we would look at that, even though you think, I'm not an athlete, you know what? You need to train your body and your mind for that type of thing to make sure it's as enjoyable as it can be, that you feel and remain injury-free through that whole process, right? So you would be looking at, sort of counting back. If you knew you were going to do, X number of kilometers here, we would go back and say, well, how back in terms of time, right? We would go back to May, to April, to March, and so on, to figure out where you would need to be in, let's say, week 1 of your training. How many kilometers can you do now? What does week 2 look like? What does week 3 look like? And so on. It's planning for progression. And within planning for progression, as we're adding, one of the really key pieces, we also have deload weeks or rest weeks, active rest weeks. So let's say you're going to be hiking in the summer for a trip. It's a really long hike and you've got to build up those kilometers, meaning you've got to get your body prepared for the amount of time that you would be spending hiking in a short stint, in a day or throughout that week. And so you'd want to make sure you're building those kilometers, but then you've got to active rest. What that means is and I do with my personal training clients often, is we take that goal, say if we've been working on building strength, well, then we do a recovery week or maybe a recovery phase where we're focused a little bit more on maybe some of the minute stabilizers that we've got to add in, or we do more mobility training, more flexibility. Maybe there's a little bit of yoga involved in that active rest week. Okay. So you get that idea, right? It's planning for the volume, for the intensity to build. And then maybe there's an event and then maybe not, maybe we're just talking about, doing your thing, being active, but there's also some rest. There's also some downtime that we do things that are a little different than what your program looks like. Okay. So if you are just getting started in fitness, this is find your fit, right? That's what we talk about is how do I get started? I want you to think about that idea so that you don't go, has anybody ever said, I'm going to start working out and I'm going to walk an hour. I'm going to walk an hour a day and I'm going to do that 5 days in a row. Anybody done that? You've gone like gangbusters right out of the block. What happens? All of a sudden you think, oh my goodness, how did I think I had this much time? Also, maybe you're developing shin splints, your calves are really sore, your back is sore. Too much, too soon, too fast. This is why we periodize. So in week 1, maybe you start with 2 days a week as an example. And it's just picking an example because I would need more information to actually find that starting point with you, right? But it would say maybe it's 2 days a week and maybe it's 20 minutes per day. And then you go to 22 minutes per day. And then you go, so it's that step-by-step process. So if you think about that idea, build. And then when you're sort of at that peak and you think, oh, this is a really challenging week. Maybe I'm now at 4 days a week and I'm walking for half an hour. Goodness, I'm feeling that increase. That's a great time for an active rest week. To say, you know what, next week, I want you to, you're going on vacation and I want you to hit the pool with your kiddos for a couple of days that week and just, splash around, play a little bit of volleyball, do some, laps in the pool, things like that, right? An active rest week, good for our body and our brain. Okay. So it makes sense in the fitness space, right? And one of those things I want you to carry forward is how much sense it makes that an athlete that's training for the Olympics sometimes has more intensity in their work, sometimes rests. We build, we rest, we build, we rest, right? That makes sense that we've got those different peaks and valleys. If we take that over to life, how many of us are training, living, to use that, swap those ideas in there. We are living at peak intensity day after day, after week, after week, after month, and wondering why we feel like, or we are in survival mode, why we think, why can't I sleep? I sleep in on a Saturday. Isn't that good enough? And yet you've been working in peak intensity, right? Duration, etc. Like all of those things, you've been going at it, as they say, burning the candle at both ends for a long time. You know what? Sleeping and taking a week vacation is not going to do it. And then getting right back at it, right? I need us to think about how to periodize goals and how to periodize life, to be honest. And how do we do that, right? Well, one of the ways I could suggest, if it's something you're still interested in, you're still here, 8 minutes in, so maybe you're still interested, is to say, write down all the things in your next calendar year. And I was just doing this with a new wellness coaching client this week. Write down all of the things in a calendar year that come up. So, what's work look like for you? What are home obligations? What are maybe volunteer pieces with your community or your church or whatever the case is? And what are the things you really want to do? Not to say you don't want to do any of those things. Now, if you are doing something, let's say you're volunteering and you really do not want to be doing that, I would invite you to review that a little bit because it doesn't have to stay on your calendar. We're going to pause. Sometimes that's really hard for folks. They're like, but I said I would. Okay. Is it periodized? Did you say you would forever? Yes, I'll sign up for this committee. Does that mean now you're bound there for the rest of your days? Absolutely not. I want you, when you enter into new commitments, I really want for you to think about how long am I going to do this? And so maybe the commitment is a year and you have to honor that. I'm not suggesting you break that, right? Unless your health and wellness says otherwise, but I'm not suggesting that we are breaking our commitments. But too often we jump into so many different things without a timeline in mind. And then all of a sudden something else comes up and you're like, oh, I really want to do that. That sounds really great. I want to help. And then you take that on and that on. And I know you want to do it all. We can't do it all at once. We can't do it all at once to the level of not perfection is in my head, but that's not the word I want. The level that you want, like you can't do it as well as you want. You might be able to sort of show up and be a warm body in a seat, but you're not participating as much as you might like, right? You want to do a good job at the things you're committed to. So let's think about how we periodize that. So if you looked at a year, right? So again, as I said, it's June. So look, June this year to June next year or May next year. What are the things that are in that calendar, right? What are the things that you are committed to, the things you must do, etc. And then I want you to also look at what are the busy times for those things. So let's say you work in fitness. Your busy times are September. You might not know that, but September is actually kind of rivaling January for its busyness, to be honest, as people get back into routine after summer vacation. And so in September and January, so as you may know, I work in fitness, I also teach. And so it's the beginning of semesters in the beginning of January, September and January. Those 2 months are times that I do not take on anything else because I know I will not be able to do it to the level I want. And I know I also won't be able, that was my mom finger, I also won't be able to prioritize sleep, nutrition, fitness the way I want, all of those things, actually recovery, because some of those teaching components come with a lot of activity. So I have to think about the other side. How am I actually planning to make sure that I'm taking care of my body, right? So it's really something for you to think about if you have this list and you think, oh my goodness, I don't even know where to start. I want to do these things. I have to do these things. And so how do I actually start to strategize so I can fit in all the things that I want? And often it's a fitness conversation, right? How do I fit in fitness? And so that's one of the ways we can start to look and be a bit more intentional with timing. And then on the flip side or the other end of that, what I would love for you to think about is that your fitness program does not have to look the same all year round. So in a time for you, let's say you are a teacher, September is bananas, June is bananas, yes? So maybe your program is kind of a deload maintenance, meaning you take out some of the minutes that you need to spend, you get back to the bare bones of what will just keep you moving and prioritize your wellness and your mental health, etc. And then other times, perhaps like the summer or different times, then you can fit in, of course, you would know your ebbs and flows of your work schedule. And you would fit in those different things that would suit when you say, hey, I know there's a bit more time here that I can tweak. So you start to ramp up some of those fitness pieces, right? So first of all, give yourself grace in terms of, we're trying to do it all. Remember, we can't do it all. Like our list of growing responsibilities has responsibilities and commitments. They're not all responsibilities, right? Sometimes we've taken them on, maybe because we want to, or because we feel we have a responsibility. But I really want you to make sure that you are prioritizing your health and wellness at the top of this whole area, at all the things, right? However that looks. Maybe it's fitness, maybe it's sleep, nutrition, maybe adhering to medical appointments and therapy appointments. I don't know what all that is for you. Good plan for you to get clear on what that is that really supports your health and wellness so that you can do the things you want to do, right? The more fit and healthy we get, then typically we have the opportunity, and I'm not suggesting we get fit and healthy just to be more productive. However, if you're wanting to, add another commitment or something like that, before you add another commitment where you're serving others, how can you ramp up your health and wellness to give you the energy to be able to do the things that you want, right? So let me know what that periodization idea, how does that sound? Is that new to you? Is that something that's useful? Did you have any sort of aha moments as we were working through this episode? I would love to hear that. And as always, if there's other fitness or life coaching or wellness topics that you would love to hear more about, You can DM me, of course. You can comment below. You can message me, Deanna at deannalangfordcoaching.com, and I will see you soon. Have a great rest of your day.